Okay, so you know how you guys send us stuff sometimes? Well, someone sent in this transcript, and it's pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's from this YouTube video, the channel The Ring of Fire. And the title is Trump Brings Back Plastic Straws While Grocery Prices Skyrocket.
Itchy.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
For sure. Clickbait 101.
Totally.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what's interesting to me is what they're trying to do with this whole, plastic straw thing, right?
Right.
It's not just about straws. It's about, well, we'll get into it, but, it's about way more.
Yeah, and the way they contrast it with all this other stuff, the economy and all that. It's pretty clever.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Let's do a deep dive on this. Really unpack what they're getting at.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Okay, so right off the bat, the video starts with this whole thing about Trump solving America's top problem. But then it immediately flips it and you realize, oh, they think the top problems are things like, how much groceries cost or prescription drugs, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like they're setting up this expectation and then they're like, psych, here's what we think is really important.
And then they bring up this Truth Social post, right?
Yeah.
Where Trump's basically announcing that he's going to sign this executive order.
To get rid of paper straws.
Exactly. He wants to bring back plastic straws. It's a huge win or something.
And the way they quote it in the video is just perfect. Back to plastic. I mean, they even use all caps,
Oh, yeah. I noticed that. Really drives the point home.
It's like they're highlighting how performative the whole thing is, is this really what people are worried about?
Exactly. Come on. Soggy paper straws. Really?
Yeah. And then the video goes on to say, I'm paraphrasing here, but something like, people probably won't even be able to afford the drinks anyway, but whatever. That's not the point.
It's brutal, but also kind of funny in a dark sort of way.
It's definitely meant to be sarcastic. They're pointing out the absurdity of it all.
For sure. But okay, so then the video moves on to this whole economic angle, right? And they're not holding back.
No, they're not. They basically lay out this argument that the whole straw thing is a distraction from the real issues.
Like the fact that people are struggling to afford basic necessities.
Like groceries and medicine.
Exactly. They explicitly call out consumer grocery prices and drug prices as areas where they think Trump should be focusing his attention.
Right, because those are the things that are really impacting people's lives.
And they even go so far as to say that people might not even be able to afford the drinks that the straws go in.
It's like they're saying, look, this is so out of touch with reality.
Totally. And I think that's the point they're trying to make. There's this disconnect between what politicians are talking about and what people are actually dealing with.
A huge disconnect.
And it's not just about this one instance with the straws. I think they're trying to make a bigger point about political priorities in general.
You think so?
Yeah, how often do we see politicians focusing on these small, symbolic issues instead of tackling the bigger, more complex problems?
That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about it that way before.
It's something to think about.
It is.
But anyway, so then the video gets even more interesting. They start talking about the jobs report that was released on the same day as the straw announcement.
Oh, right. The one that came out on a Friday.
Yep. And they don't mince words. They call it horrible and below expectations.
I think they said something like only 143,000 jobs were created in January.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying that this is a sign of things to come.
And I think they even suggest that it might be the best jobs report of Trump's entire term.
Which is a pretty bold statement.
Especially considering it only covered the first 11 days of his administration.
Right. It's such a small snapshot of time.
It is, but the video uses it to support their argument that Trump is trying to distract from bad economic news.
By focusing on plastic straws?
Exactly. It's like they're saying, look over here at these straws. Don't pay attention to that terrible jobs report.
Yeah, it's a pretty clever strategy, if you think about it.
It is, and it's something we see all the time in politics.
Distraction.
Distraction, yeah.
But, okay, so then the video moves on to the rising cost of consumer goods.
Right, and they use a pretty shocking example to illustrate their point.
Egg prices.
They claim that egg prices have gone up by over 35% in the last year.
Which is insane. I mean, who can afford eggs anymore?
It is pretty crazy, I agree. But they don't just stop at eggs. They also mention how milk and gasoline are getting more expensive, too.
And they're basically saying that inflation is coming back.
Which is a big concern, obviously, especially for people who are already struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, while you're over here worrying about what kind of straw you're using, your grocery bill is going through the roof.
It's a pretty effective way to connect with people on an emotional level, don't you think?
Totally. They're basically saying, hey, we get it. These are the things that are actually keeping you up at night.
Yeah, not soggy paper straws.
Exactly. And they even bring up the fact that Trump promised to lower prices, but they claim he's done literally nothing to make that happen.
Which, again, is a pretty strong statement.
Yeah, but it's all part of their overall argument. They're trying to paint a picture of a president who is out of touch with the needs of everyday people.
And they're using the straw issue as a symbol of that disconnect.
Exactly. But then they add this whole other layer to the argument.
What's that?
They start talking about the environment, specifically microplastics.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? It's like, where did that come from? But it makes sense when you think about it.
Because plastic straws contribute to plastic pollution.
Exactly. They actually mention these new studies that supposedly show there's like a spoon's worth of plastic in the human brain.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard about that.
It's pretty scary stuff.
It is, if it's true.
Yeah. And they're basically saying that bringing back plastic straws is only going to make the problem worse.
So they're not just framing it as an economic distraction anymore, they're also making it an environmental issue.
Right. They're saying it's a step backward for the planet and potentially for our health.
I think I remember them saying something like, Trump's plan will lead to more single-use plastics to crud up your brains.
It's a pretty vivid image, right?
It definitely gets your attention.
Yeah, they're not afraid to use strong language to get their point across.
They're not, and it's effective.
So to recap, the video makes a pretty compelling argument. They're basically saying that Trump is focusing on a trivial issue like plastic straws while ignoring more pressing concerns like the economy and the environment.
Yeah, and they're not pulling any punches. They're using sarcasm, strong language, and some pretty alarming statistics to make their case.
But before we wrap up, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. The video does include a brief ad for Magic Spoon cereal and treats.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. They talked about how it's low in sugar and high in protein.
And they mentioned some of the flavors, like fruity and cocoa for the cereal, and marshmallow and chocolate for the treats.
Sounds pretty good, actually.
They also mentioned a discount code and where you can buy it. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out in the interest of full disclosure.
Sure, makes sense.
Okay, so now that we've really unpacked this whole video, I'm curious to hear what you think.
What do I think about what?
About everything. Like, what resonates most with you? Is it the economic stuff?
Yeah.
The environmental concerns? The way political attention gets directed?
That's a good question. I think it's all connected, you know? It's hard to separate one issue from the others.
That's true. But I guess what I'm asking is what keeps you up at night?
I'd have to say it's the way that seemingly small decisions, like the kind of straw we use, can actually have these huge ripple effects.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like everything is connected in a way we don't always realize.
Exactly. And it makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you think about the choices we make, both as individuals and as a society.
And about the consequences of those choices.
Well, that's a pretty thought-provoking note to end on.
It is, isn't it?
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
My pleasure. Always interesting to unpack these things with you.
And thanks to all of you for listening. Until next time.